Right, I'd just like to introduce Will, and he's going to be our guest presenter for this particular video. Take it away, Will.
Hello, this is Dorado. An amazingly complicated game, but in the true style of all of these figure style games, beautiful figures which Peter here has been painting maniacally for some time in anticipation of me coming to play. And as you can see, each piece has its own associated card, and there's lots of detail on the front, and then there's also lots of detail on the back. And of course you have to remember all these things because there are things in here, for instance, entangled. When engaged with a unit whose base is equal or smaller, the other cannot retreat. And treacherous insinuation. Cancel the effects of a Vi Victus or Vi Soli order before they happen. Things like this that you have to remember while you're playing, which is going to be difficult because we've never played this game before. But we're going to have a go, as usual, on the Esoteric Order of Gamers. It's a case of throw yourself into the deep end and see what happens. So here we go with Dorado.
So we've already had one turn. Yes, we've got started, and in that turn our forces have moved forward onto the board. Now the board area is just 30 inches by 30 inches, and it's marked like so. And we've also got those little red counters are marking out the area, dividing it into 9 areas. Like so. Now the way you get victory points at the end of each turn, it's a 4-turn long game, and it can be extended a couple of turns by the players if they wish, by spending a command point. But basically they get victory points by occupying each one of these 9 areas at the end of each turn. And the further you are into your opponent's side of the board, the more points you get. So you only get 1 point if you're in the 3 on your side, you get 2 points if the 3 in the middle, and 3 points if you're on the opposite side. And you have to have the most number of models in that quadrant or ninedrant. What would you call that? Yes, I don't know. Something divided by 9? Novadrant.
Sextant, perhaps.
No, that'd be 6.
That would be 6, of course.
Anyway, so we've had one turn, and Will's forces have moved forward, and so he's moved forward a bit further than me, so he has a few more victory points than me.
Yes, because these ones have a special ability enabling them to set up in an advanced deployment position 4 fathoms, which is an inch, fathom is an inch, further into the table than everybody else. So they started out here, where everybody else started here.
Right, so it's now our second turn, and I think in this turn, forces will be joining in combat.
We're in the upkeep phase, and we're resolving special abilities. And Peter's side has an ability, what was it? Fetid Mist?
Fetid Mist. Now, I'm just confusing you here because I've swapped to the other side of the table. And the reason I've done that is because light is shining in through the other side. So
yes, from this lovely view.
Very confused. Yes, I have Fetid Mist, and it comes from this fellow here who's called a soul carrier. He's carrying a couple of souls in his panicas across his shoulder.
A couple of little souls and panniers there.
Yes, and here's a permanent effect with an 8-fathom radius, which is 8 inches. So we'll just check that. Oh my god, the flesh demon thing is within that radius.
Oh dear.
Extremely unpleasant. And it says that non-Yandua Wang units, mine are Yong there, within the area of effect suffer cursed 1/1 if a non-unit was already cursed before entering blah 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 blah. So basically you're cursed.
And what effect does cursed have?
I'm glad you asked.
It's on this handy reference sheet.
It is.
Which you can get from the Esoteric Orders of Gamers site.
The whole book. You don't have to do that. You can just look at this. And you can find out the cursed means,
It's in alphabetical order.
Here it is. Once the cursed unit has finished all of its rerolls in an attack sequence, it's forced to reroll up to X dice that scored hits this last Y turn. So it has to reroll 1 hit for 1 turn.
Right, okay, that's very good. And one of my units has a effect that works in the upkeep phase, which is an aura of regeneration, which would give all my units within 4 fathoms a life point, but we haven't lost any yet, so it doesn't apply.
That's not a problem. Right, so the first combat of the game, and keep in mind this is the first time we've played Dorado, so again, you're coming on a journey.
Here is the great damned one of Wrath, who has charged in here. I've had to pay 1 command point to make him charge because he's uncontrollable. And in a series of punch and counter punch, we've used various abilities. He's got Eager, which gives him +1 combat. And he's also got Fury, which means when he charges, he would normally suffer -1 combat, but he doesn't because he's furious. And enemy units get -1. But this fella here, the Chinese bureaucrat, has an aura extending 8 fathoms.
Breath of the Dragon.
Which cancels out my +1 combat. So we end up at nothing. So modifiers left, right and centre akimbo, and it all ends up with no modifier at all. So now, we've got dice. I've got 7 combat.
Right, you roll combat dice equal to your combat, like that, and you have to beat my target's defense. Now, he's fighting the Kuan Yi, and my defense is +1 in a close combat sequence, so my defense is in fact...
But it's also -1 because you're terrified.
Oh, am I?
Yes, so that too cancels out.
My goodness, everything's being cancelled out. So I've just got a defense of 3.
Okay, so I've got 7 dice.
And you have to beat 3.
Let's not forget, I get 2 attacks because I am frenzied.
All right, well, one at a time.
7 dice. And I need a 3, did you say?
You do.
Oh dear, it's going to hurt. That's 4. That's 6 hits.
6 hits!
Yes.
Right, and the next thing you do is go on your little table here where you find out the effect of your grafted weapons. Ooh. And you see how many hits? How many hits did you get? 6. Right, well, then it goes up to 5,
okay,
which does 12 damage.
Ouch.
Oh, this is going to hurt.
Piercing and slashing damage.
Right. Now, you can only roll a maximum of 5 dice, however, I've just discovered.
Okay, yes, you're right. Okay,
so roll
5 hits.
Or you could roll those 5 again.
No, I don't think that's necessary.
I'll let him have that.
5 hits.
So, 5 hits. That does 12 damage. Right.
So that's 12 damage.
12 damage. So I take my little chart here. Now, I must point out these are cards designed by me. These aren't the normal Hell Dorado cards. They're available for download. No, they're not available for download on my website because I've only done them for a couple of factions. So these cards are not ones you can get hold of at this moment, but perhaps in the future sometime. Anyway, that did 12 hits. I've got 12 damage. I think he's killed me in one shot.
Right.
Which is quite a frightening thought, really. Because that's one of my major figures.
And I now get another attack.
How disturbing. Oops, rewind! Yes, we've just discovered that the modifier to my defense was actually a modifier to my next combat. So in fact, I have a +1 defense, so he actually has to get 4 or above. And since he rolled too many dice, we're going to re-roll that.
4 above on 5 dice.
5 dice, 4 above.
And that's not quite so good a roll. Only 2 hits this time.
Only 2 hits. So what does that say on your chart?
Damage 6.
So 6 damage. That's more like it. We don't have one of my best units wiped out in the first turn.
And now I get the second attack.
Oh.
It's another 5 dice.
Now, hold a minute. I just mark off 6 hits on my little chart, and when I do that, I go down to the green area, and that means our stats go down. So my defense goes down to 2 rather than 3, or with my +1, 3 rather than 4.
Excellent.
So this time he has an even better chance to hit.
So
I may be killed after all.
5 dice with the 3. Oh God! Only 3 hits.
Excellent.
Which does damage of 8.
8? That's still too many. It's definitely too many. However, I just have to point out that combat results are simultaneous, so I do have a chance to fight back before I die.
Oh, I see.
Yes. Also, I usually subtract my PR, that is my protection, from that damage, though unfortunately Kuan Yi only has a protection of 0, so nothing gets subtracted. But I do get to fight back before I die. Right, the Kuan Yi is fighting back now. I usually have an attack of 5, but due to one of the abilities of the Greater Demon, it's reduced by 1. So I have an attack of 4. However, I'm also in the control radius of this Lemure here, this little beastie. And he happens to have Blessings of the Dragon, which is a residual aura, which allows creatures within, or allied units within 4 fathoms to get the natural talent ability. And the natural talent ability lets me re-roll 1 combat dice. So,
oh my God, it's a lot of words for a very small objective.
Yes. 4 dice. What's your defense?
3.
3, so I need 3 above and I get a reroll. Here we go. That is 2 hits. I reroll one of these. That's 3 hits. I look on my little chart here, slashing, piercing, because I've got swords.
Okay. Now, of course, at this point we have to make absolutely certain that I haven't got some other thing in range creating an aura which gives me additional defense.
But you jumped down in front.
Doesn't look like it.
It only does 8 damage, which probably isn't going to kill you, is it? Because you're very large.
No, I've got 20.
Oh, God, 20.
20 points.
Oh, dear. Well, that does
He's not
8.
called the Great Damned One of Wrath for no reason.
And you don't get wounded or anything. It's horrible. So, anyway, 8 points. I did 8 points before I was killed. What was that again?
That, my friend, was the sound of a flesh demon. Ooh. Look at this truly disgusting figure. Painted expertly by Mr. Head himself.
And how's it go? So, Will here has used a Vae Victus order to activate 3 units in a row. Yes. First, this horrible Greater Demon of Wrath, then this Infernal Ambassador, and now this Flesh Demon. Charging my units like a mad thing.
Like demons, in fact.
Like demons. Let's see what happens.
Right. I've just charged the aforementioned Flesh Demon into contact with his, well, for want of a better word, general, and discovered that he has an aura of the dragon, which slows my charge to the point where I can't actually attack.
It's actually called Breath of the Dragon. So in fact the Flesh Demon went charging towards him, and Xiao Chen went bringing out the Breath of the Dragon, which actually slowed the Flesh Demon down.
Point where it stopped.
Very slow. And Chen Xiaoxin then fights back with whatever he's got.
Let's find out what he's got. Could take some time.
He's got 4 dice.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. What is the defense of your Flesh Demon?
Flesh Demon defense is 3.
3, so I need a 3 or above. Here we go. And because I have something else, which is the Lemure's ability, I get the natural talent, so I can re-roll this.
Don't forget before you roll to check the backs of every other card to make sure there are no other modifiers that could apply. Are you absolutely certain that there's nothing else that can apply in this situation?
Sort of certain.
Roll! Damn you.
That is 2, that's 3 hits, and I get 1 re-roll. That's 3 hits. So
3 hits.
Is slashing with my sharp claws.
3 hits on the Flesh Demon.
No, on my table, not your table.
Oh, sorry, your table.
Yes. So with his claws, that's 3, that does 4 points of damage plus life drain 1.
Ooh.
And at life drained, that can't be good.
That means you get points.
What does life drain mean?
It means you get points. If you've lost points, you take my life. It's Stormbringer all over again.
I can't find life drain.
Drinker of Souls.
Yes. Right, well, I like that.
We need a Hawkwind soundtrack.
So, 4 points of damage and a life drain.
Right.
So, a little bit of revenge has been wrought. The Flesh Demon is now dead. He's a big pile of fetid flesh. Oh, careful, that's an incredibly fragile miniature, that one.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
And he's off.
He is off.
And he turns out to be, although a very impressive figure, a pretty lousy unit, really, only costing 12.
Well, however, he would have regenerated all his life points at the start of next turn. The important thing was for me to keep hacking into him until he was dead in one turn.
He has to survive the turn, and then he can regenerate 8 life points, but he didn't make it.
So let's just imagine that scene. That's a imperial Chinese bureaucrat, magic user, who slashed repeatedly at a huge, bulbous, changing flesh demon with his sharp claws, cutting it into ribbons. You can imagine there'd be quite a mess to clean up after that.
I don't really want to visualise that.
It's horrible, isn't it?
It is truly horrible.
All right, let's
We
continue.
are in hell, though, after all.
And in hell, things get messy. One of the great things about this game, which is full of character, is that when spellcasters cast their spells, they don't just cast them out into the blue at something or whatever. They in fact cast it on a little creature called a lemure, which are all these little characterful beasties, and they cast them on that, and it takes the spell, and then you can send the lemure off on the battlefield, running towards your opponents. And in this case here, Will has just cast a spell on this little creature called Candle, and it's come sprinting across the battlefield, gone base to base with my Imperial Sentinel, and let off his spell, which is called Plague of Believers, was it?
Plague of the Believers, yes.
Plague of the Believers, which does damage equal to twice my faith, which is 6 points, which is just half my points.
There's something quite beautiful about that, isn't there? The more
fellow,
faith you have, the more damage you take.
Imperial Sentinel was just standing on the battlefield, getting ready to do something, and so he saw in the distance this little creature, this little demon creature, holding a big candle, running across the field towards him. What is that? What is that? What did you jump?
And your faith was seriously challenged.